Hello, San Francisco, and welcome once again to the Angelic Troublemakers. I'm your host, Alan Jones, and on today's program, leadership in the cup of crisis. We all are going to experience a crisis as we go through this life. And far as leadership is concerned, it's important that as we are adults, that we take on a leadership role when the unexpected happens. The word that I learned some time ago, and I'm not one who has a big vocabulary, but vicissitudes. It's like, you know, life has some unexpected turns, and they're the vicissitudes of life. And the thing is we have to learn how, when we are faced with the unpredictable circumstances that, life brings us, the vicissitudes, the ups and downs, sideways and whatever, we must learn how to experience equanimity. We have to have a balance. Can you imagine a plane flying with one wing? It won't happen. The fact that we humans are going to experience more crises, just like the one San Francisco experienced politically when we lost our mayor. Um, Total shock to every one of us. And we have to make sure that life goes on and the leadership of San Francisco has balance, you know. And I say that because things are happening in San Francisco and it could spin out of control. It could get ugly when we're looking for the next mayor of San Francisco. In early January 2017, I had announced on my Troublemakers, Angelic Troublemakers program that January 2018 should be the start of Black Power Month. And I think that we should phase out Black History Month. I'll get to that in a little bit. But far as a leadership in the cup of crisis, as we all drink this cup of crisis, meaning bad things are going to come our way, we need to make sure that we're surrounded by the right people. I applaud London Breed for her leadership in this crisis, but it would have been for any one of the presidents of the Board of Supervisors. It's in our Constitution, that, how we govern this city, that the head of the Board of Supervisors steps into the role of mayor. So, but that's only temporarily. We have an election that's going to give the voters an opportunity to select a more permanent mayor to run out or fulfill the extra 2 years that are the term of Mayor Ed Lee. But I have this thing, and it's when I'm looking for leaders or leadership, I want leaders, not followers, to follow me. I know it sounds strange. If I wanted followers, it would be like I'm a mother duck and I'm looking for little ducklings to um, follow me. No, we're all adults. We're not ducklings. And it is unfortunate, but I have found where too many followers of the so called leaders are not leaders themselves. I need to tell a quick story here in getting my point across. I've told this story before on my program, but it's appropriate. I used to have a house in the Mission District of San Francisco, and this house we were remodeling. And in the remodeling of this house, I wasn't going to be fooling around. I was going to play by the rules every step of the way. That's the type of guy I am. And so the building inspector, he gave me strict instructions. Don't you tear down such and such before you get my permission, and do this and do that. And so I followed along, everything he suggested. Then it came to him saying I needed to shore up the foundation. Now, my house had one building, 4-unit building on the one side, and it had a house right up against it on the other side. And so me trying to not spend too much money, when the building inspector insisted that I shore up the foundation, I says, well, why? You see that this building's on this side and this house is on another side. Why would I need to shore it up? It ain't going anywhere. Then this building inspector says something that I just really appreciate. He says, but what if one of the buildings isn't there? We need to be able to stand tall when people are around us, and in case somebody is not around us, keeping us up, as is what happened with the sudden death of Mayor Ed Lee. And the reason why I found that to be a profound statement that I'm going to use the rest of my life is because it's so appropriate that the type of people I want are not people just following me just because they like to hear me speak, but that they are actually holding me up with the understanding that if I'm not around, they can take over in the position that I held, and we're all moving, forward. And so I'm saying that leadership in the cup of crisis, we know that there's going to be a crisis. And who do you want around you when there's a crisis? I'm going to be honest. The death of Mayor Ed Lee poses the fact that many of the political people lining up, to take his place, I don't see them as leaders. I see them as followers. Now, true, what are they following? They're either following money or status within, their party, the Democratic Party. And so I'm basically, I just don't have faith that they're real leaders. But one of them's going to lead us. And I myself want to help in any way that I can because I love San Francisco. However, in doing this, you know, we have to realize that there's an awful lot of people who have been um, harmed by the leadership of the late Mayor Ed Lee. And we have to be sensitive and understanding that, you know, when we are moving forward, leadership is not going to allow us to be timid when we decide to make some hard decisions that were not necessarily the direction of Mayor Ed Lee. As great as a mayor as he was to many, he wasn't perfect. And the next mayor is going to have to pick up not where Ed Lee left off, but pick up the issues that Ed Lee basically failed upon, you know, in his role as mayor. Now, I know that there's an awful lot of well-intentioned people, but I say there are some people just are not qualified, and they're lining up to be leaders of San Francisco. I don't know what's in their head. And it is definitely disturbing, but whoever is the next mayor of San Francisco, I'm going to do my best to help them lead. I recall last January that I said that our president, Donald Trump, deserves a chance. I don't regret saying that, even though I don't believe in 99% of his policies. However, in San Francisco, the leadership that we need is, in my opinion, an elephant in the room. It must address racism at City Hall. And though I have a ballot measure that addresses that issue, it's basically an apology to the city of Oakland for how we have treated, Oakland in the taking of the Warriors basketball team for our own. And we showed very selfish goals, aspirations, greed, to name a few things. And we owe Oakland an apology. And my ballot measure, which is titled by me, Thou Shalt Not Covet, but the city attorneys calls it relocation of professional sports teams. Either way, in the ballot measure, which I wrote and had help the person who edited it put some good stuff in there. But in this ballot measure, we have something in there that San Francisco, and we spell it out, San Franciscans should apologize to the city of Oakland. Now, if none of the candidates for mayor are going to take on this situation and apologize by supporting this ballot measure, they're not going to be leading San Francisco. And so I'm saying that it's going to be very interesting. I have experience where I have reached out to some of the candidates and all members of the San Francisco Board of Supervisors, asking them to offer up their opinions of this ballot measure. None of them have responded. But I've been around long enough because of other projects that I've been involved in. The first thing people say to me is, who else is supporting it? Well, that right there, they go off my list. Because if you're looking to find out who else is on board, you're not a leader. You are a follower. And I don't have any use for followers. Now, if you're a leader following, you'll say, I'm in. If you agree with my position, and you'll follow my lead, that's different. But I'm not looking for just followers. And if a person asks who else is supporting you, they're just basically telling on themselves. If I said to them, Wells Fargo's following me, well, they got billions of dollars, you know. Ooh, okay, then I'll follow you. No, I'm saying that if you see a good idea and you want to be a part of it, the first thing you should be doing is count me in. This is a good idea. Not who else is supporting you. And if there's only the two of us, hey, so be it. Now, might I say, thank God that when I proposed what I wanted to do to some people, the people did not say, who else is following you? They said, how can I help? The one person who was with me the most in this project, she's the one who edited what I wrote. It was actually her idea. I just wrote it, this ballot measure. And then one Oakland executive, he saw what we were doing and he realized, man, I got to do something. And he too, hey, he didn't say who else is following. He just put up the money. $50,000. That's no chump change. And so I really appreciate the fact that these two people, and there are others, stepped up the way they did. But in this life, I have experienced way too often where people are, who else is supporting you? And it really is sad, because a lot of times that is what's holding black people back. Because in the issues that many black people are going through today, they're looking for people who agree, or how can we do this without making too much of a fuss? Well, I'm not one to make a fuss, but I'm also determined. And my leadership demands that I say some things that a lot of black people just don't agree with. Well, I'm not trying to follow you. I hate the term African American. I've never used it to identify anybody who is black. I wrote this book, and in it, I butchered why I objected to the term, you know. But after the book was published, I read something like a year or two later where this person pointed out, which is true, Africa is a continent. America is a country. So why are we calling ourselves African American when you really don't see people identifying by continents. You know, are we North Americans? Well, North America is a continent. No, we're Americans. And so that's one thing that, when I see certain things, and I can't call it, but I know there's some objections. And look, if I want to be reminded that I'm from Africa, all I got to do is look in the mirror or the back of my hand. But my point is, there's a lot of things that Black America just follow along with, and that is our problem. Take, for example, Black History Month. It's rolling around. Now, I remember 25 years ago when I was teaching up at the juvenile hall, a Bible study lesson. The room was full of Black kids, 25 of them. And in my Bible study, I said, I'm more concerned with Black future than Black history. The whole class agreed and amen my statement. So I've known for quite some time that there's been a young generation that is really bent out of shape over people cramming Black history down their throats. Now, if you make for a better Black future, hey, you'll have a better Black history story to tell. But when I'm talking about me not being a fan of Black history, it's because you're teaching all the wrong parts. I can't tell you how many times I heard and saw all of the horrible things of what we Black people have endured. I had to dig out for myself some of the jewels and the great things that Black people have accomplished. And some of them were quite eye-opening. But here is one of the more eye-opening things. And I just found this out last year. Carter G. Woodson, who was a historian back in 1926, I believe, somewhere around there, he created what was National Negro History Week. And he did it because he noticed in the books way back when, there was not an awful lot of recognition of the accomplishments of Black people. And so he came up with this Black History Week, and it eventually moved into Black History Month. But the one thing that people left off, Carter G. Woodson never intended Black History Month or week at the time to be permanent. He said it should be temporary to where Blacks are recognized to a point of being just regular Americans. So my question then was, why in the world are we equating what Carter G. Woodson created with such reverence when he wanted it to be temporary? Because he knew way back when there was a reason for it to be temporary. And that is, hey, once we're all in, we should no longer need this. Well, 90 years does not define temporary. I believe that we should phase it out. And as I'm saying that we should phase it out, I do believe something should replace it. That's where Black Power Month comes in. Now, when I say Black Power, I'm not talking about the militant 60s. Give me a break. Give me a little more credit than that. Black Power, the power of black people to move into a situation to where we promote the good qualities that, are just part of our culture. The fact that we should be empowering ourselves with education and love is the two things that come to mind right now. But when January 2017 ran around and I had this idea we should have a Black Power Month, I picked January because, hey, you're going to start something off. Everybody's running around, New Year's resolutions. Well, hey, okay. Then, of course, Martin Luther King Jr., who was born on January 15th. I like his month, and all of he has done. And there's a lot others, but the fact of the matter is I want to start it off January 2018 as Black Power Month. And coincidentally, our acting mayor, black, that as we go into the new year. Now, don't get me wrong, I am not saying that I'm voting for London Breed as the next mayor of San Francisco. The fact that if she doesn't show leadership qualities based on what I have put in my ballot measure, it's a red flag. And it's something that I will not be able to get beyond. And that goes for all other candidates. Now, I know that these candidates are going to be scared to agree with my ballot measure. But as God would have it, they don't have a way out, because I put in there a reason why we owe Oakland an apology. We have done something against the city of Oakland and its jewel, which was is still sitting in a black community. And we have so much, we snatched it for our own, and we use such silly, washed up, not even true reasons for taking the Warriors from the city of Oakland. I spelled it out. Hey, it was done to us. So why are we going to go around and do it to someone else? If we didn't like it, we don't run around and do it to someone else. No, that's not the way this works. And I think that in 2018, black people are going to have an opportunity to show their power. And I'm not talking about this militant stuff. I'm not talking about tearing up stuff. I'm not talking about vandalizing that turning over police cars crap that some blacks feel that's the only way they can get their message across. No. I believe that blacks will rise in the year 2018 in San Francisco and show the nation that we can have a new direction with new leadership if we first recognize where we owe someone an apology and we go from there. If not, there's no hope for us. Until next time, God bless.